little better at it, but it's always good to have somebody to bounce things off of. You know what I'm saying? Instead of me just coming online and spewing whatever it is that I think is going on, and not having anybody to have, giggle like that or something. So, or respond even. So, but I'm going to go on a friend's podcast here very soon, and he's going to come on here, and then you can make up your mind after he comes on. Those of you who listen, once you hear my co-host, which I'm going to try to get a regular co-host, but this guy's just going to come and do one show just to see how it goes. But that's going to happen soon. I don't exactly know when, but very soon. Stay tuned. We're going to go to break right now. Short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're listening to a man who's so sexy it's completely ridiculous. Mr. Anthony Scott Dover. Yummy.
All right, we're back. I think the last podcast that I did mention the fact that Lou Dobbs had been fired from Fox Business. He was on the Fox Business show. I don't know. I've never actually seen the Lou Dobbs show, but he was on Fox Business. And they say his show had the highest ratings on Fox Business, but that ain't saying much, because none of those shows are highly rated. They're business shows for businessmen. It's not, the main public that watches Fox Business. So to me, anybody who has a show on there can be highly rated. But Lou Dobbs had the highest ratings on Fox Business, and he was fired because Dominion and I think also Smartmatic, those are companies that make the voting machines, they're suing Fox. And so Fox got rid of Lou Dobbs. He's sort of a fall guy because he talked about Smartmatic's voting machines flipping votes for Joe Biden, which is nonsense. And the important thing is not true. So Smartmatic is suing Fox. They're suing Rudy Giuliani. They're suing Sidney Powell. They're suing Fox on behalf of a few of their show hosts, not just Lou Dobbs. But they just let Lou Dobbs go so far. And in that same area, I think ex MMA fighter, the female, Gia Carano, she had an acting career going, and now she's been fired by Disney because she was on The Mandalorian. Gia Carano, she's a very attractive young lady, but she's ruining her career with this Trump nonsense. She's a conspiracy theorist and a right winger, so this is ruining her career because she keeps saying things that are completely stupid on Twitter. She was just let go by Disney, and they were in development, or it was rumored that they were in development for a spinoff that they were going to do just with Gia Carano as the main character. I don't know what that show would have been about. If it was a spinoff from The Mandalorian, it would have been a show related to Star Wars. But that's not going to happen now. Gia Carano was fired. She said something about conservatives are getting the same. Now, this is not a quote verbatim. But she said something about conservatives getting the same treatment as the Jews did in World War II. And that is just the single stupidest statement ever made on Twitter. I mean, if not the single stupidest statement, it's one of the dumbest, because Jews were being murdered. Conservatives are not being murdered because they're conservative. They're not being murdered at all. And they're not. She said something about them being silenced, which they're not being silenced. You're on Twitter. And Twitter is not silencing you, even though you're saying things that are completely ridiculous. Comparing yourself to people who were murdered by Hitler and his men, evil men, is laughable. It's not funny, because the Jewish people back in World War II were being murdered. You're not being persecuted. Okay? You're just whining like a baby. You can say anything you want. And censorship has to do with the government censoring you. Okay? It's not a First Amendment issue unless it's the government that's censoring you. Twitter doesn't have, they can cancel your account. They can freeze your account. They can delete your account. Okay? That's a private company. They don't have to let you say anything they don't want to on Twitter, because it's a private company. So is Facebook. Some of you think you have the right to say whatever you want on Facebook and Twitter. No, you don't. Twitter can do whatever they want. They're a private company. It's not the government that's censoring you. If Twitter says they don't like this or they don't like that, then that's pretty much the end of it. They're not the government.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, what's up?
Alex wanted to see you.
Okay. And on that note, moving on, there's one thing I forgot to mention. I try to mention these deaths at the top of the show at the beginning whenever there's a celebrity death. Larry Flynt just died, and I forgot to find out how old Larry was. How old was Larry Flynt?
Larry Flynt died last Wednesday at age 78.
And there you go. Larry Flynt died last Wednesday at age 78. And 78, I don't know, it's not that old. I guess it's old, but Larry Flynt, for those of you who don't know who Larry Flynt is the guy who owned Hustler magazine. I do believe Hustler. So Larry Flynt was referred to as the Smut King at one time. Was actually in a wheelchair, had been in a wheelchair for years because of some idiot, some conspiracy theorist moron, a racist jackass of a guy, because he shot Larry Flynt in the back, and it ended up causing him paralysis. And ever since that day, and this was back in the 70s, ever since that day, Larry Flynt was in a wheelchair. And the reason the guy shot Larry Flynt is because Larry Flynt's magazine depicted an interracial couple doing different things sexually. So this guy did not appreciate that. So he looked up who owns this magazine, and it was Larry Flynt. And he actually got a gun and went to try to kill Larry Flynt. He didn't kill him. He just ended up paralyzing him. So this is what these nut jobs can do in our society, which are multiplying, by the way. This is one thing that I didn't think most of us sane people thought that we would have to do with on a mass scale is people who are not 100% sane. And there's levels of crazy that we're going to have to deal with here. And all the conspiracy theorists, those people are conspiracy theorists because they're either crazy or stupid or both. And there's levels to your sanity. If you're not 100% sane, if you are 99% sane, then you might have some stuff creeping in that's nonsensical in that 1% of your brain that is not right. Okay? Your thought process is going to be a little off because you have that 1% that's there open for all kind of weird, wacky nonsense, meaning stuff that's not true, that you're going to believe. It's no different than a child believing in Santa Claus. They believe it because you are a grown-up and you tell them that this is true. It's not till they get older and they realize that this is nonsensical and silly. But the problem is with nut jobs is they can't just reason on their own. They're not going to develop their brains unless they come out with some type of treatment that's that we're unaware of currently. The nut jobs are not going to develop their brains. But the problem is the crazy people are multiplying. Okay, so, and this is part of the reason that Donald Trump had such a huge base. Over 70 million people voted for him. Some people just sane people who are greedy, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of rich people who just voted for him just because he reduced their taxes. And they was like, oh, well, that's good. That's good for us. So let's keep this guy in office if we can. And, you know, I say that's greedy because there's more issues than just taxes, how much money you can keep. Okay. Yes, maybe the government can be out of control with taxes, but there's a lot more issues for us to consider than just taxes and supporting a maniac like the ex-president. But for the most part, a lot of these people are just crazy. And so if you cater to that, to the QAnon believers, then you're going to get their loyalty. They're going to say, yes, he's one of us. He agrees with us. He's the savior and person who's going to straighten out Washington by draining the swamp. Not to mention the fact that he is the swamp. I mean, there's so many people in his administration who have been arrested that he pardoned, by the way. And that was the promise to the people who were doing his bidding illegally, that don't worry about it, I'll pardon you. And that's exactly what happened. I got off on a tangent because Larry Flint was shot by a guy, you know, back in the 70s who was a nut job and a racist, and now he is dead. So condolences to the friends and family of Larry Flint. I liked Larry Flint because he made that magazine, and you know, a lot of teenage boys appreciated that. Him and Hugh Hefner, and I don't even know the guy's name who started Penthouse, but yeah, hats off to him too.
Dad?
What?
I got a lot of questions about Donald Trump and Santa Claus.
This is my
Daughter.
6-year-old daughter.
My name's
Soon
Maya.
to be 7 here shortly. But what's your question about Donald Trump?
Donald Trump was stupid and dumb. Whoever votes for him are out of here.
That's not a question.
Still.
That's a statement.